Well, November was a spectacular finish for him, and adding on to it is going to be August 16th live from the Maverik Center, headlining alongside Joel Haro is none other than Justin Horsley, an OG of this fight game, specifically an OG of Fierce Fighting Championship. Justin, thank you so much for joining us. How you been?
I've been doing great. I'm super excited for this fight. Thanks for having me, guys.
So excited to have you here. And I really want to start things off back at the beginning. Fierce FC 1, fight number one, walk number one. You were in that blue corner. Justin Horsley now headlines the biggest card this show has ever put on. But take me back to March of 2016 alongside Christopher Gary and Price, Utah. What do you remember about that debut all those years ago?
I remember being super nervous, but super excited at the same time. I think my nervousness was just over excitement to get in the cage. I remember I was the first fight on the card, and I believe that was the first Fierce show as well. And then I had a lot of pressure on myself because I was going to propose to my wife in the cage after I won the fight. So there was no losing that fight.
Oh
and
my
and
gosh.
my coach Yeah, so my coaches were saying, "Well, you better win if you're going to propose." And I was like, "I'm winning, guys. I'm winning this thing." So,
Do you have footage of that anywhere? That's an incredible story. I didn't realize that the first fierce fight ever, there was a proposal by you in the cage.
yeah, it's kind of funny, now that we're main eventing a card now, and it's kind of a proposal to the fight game and a proposal to the wife at the same time, my man. So, it's pretty cool for sure. We
Un-
definitely have footage of that. We'll have to get it posted again.
I wanted to talk to you, Justin, about you go from that, the first fight ever. Obviously, you have this incredible moment, you get that win. Fast forward 9 years, you're now headlining the biggest card in Fierce Fighting Championship history. This card is stacked from top to bottom, and Zach Partridge and all the powers that be decided that you and Joel Haro are going to be the final two to really headline this thing and be the face of it. What does that mean to you and all the hard work you've put in over the years?
It means a ton to me. I really think about moving to Las Vegas and training with Extreme Couture for 2 years. I left my wife. I'd come back on the weekends, only see her on Saturday and Sunday. There was a time where I was living in Hotel Galaxy, a little motel that's not even there anymore because they got the Raiders Stadium built there now. But I've sacrificed a lot of time into the sport. I've sacrificed a lot of money, sacrificed a lot of bruises, blood, sweat, tears, everything, man. And I'm super excited and super thankful for the Fierce team and having me for the main event for sure.
Talk to me a little bit about that time period of your life. When was this? Was this pre or post St. George and training over at Fusion? When did this all come to be?
Yeah, this was post St. George. I would come back to St. George every once in a while and train with Coach Ace and train with those guys and Christian and always loved going training with those guys. I had asked Coach Ace what I wanted to do. I said, Coach, I want to be in the UFC one day. What can I do to make that happen? What do I need to be doing? And he said, well, you need to start going down to these bigger gyms and getting some different sparring partners and seeing the fight world a little bit differently, and see what you think and see if if you are a fighter and if that's what you want to do. So immediately I started doing it. I couldn't afford to go down there and pay for my mortgage at the same time in St. George. My wife and we sold our house like within 2 weeks after talking to Coach Ace about this. Sold our house, talked to the in-laws. We moved my wife in with the in-laws, and I was hitting the road, going training at Extreme Couture. I was staying in the hotel for the first year, going back and forth, and then I met my in-laws' family or family friends, Rodney Cardner, and they invited me into their house, and I actually had a house to stay at for a while when I was training down there. So that was awesome to be a part of too.
How long did you live there?
I lived there like actually in a house for 1 year, but bouncing back and forth between hotel to St. George to hotel to St. George for a whole year. So
What year was this? I'm just trying to kind of put this all in line of a timeline.
I think it was 2018 to 2020 because no, it was about probably 2017-ish to 2019 because I had my pro debut in 2019 and I was still living in Vegas at that time.
Did you have any sort of like, oh wow, like I really need to level up here, or what was that experience like for you going to Extreme Couture?
I had a lot of mental strength stuff that I had to go through when I was training there. I mean, here I am, an amateur fighter wanting a pro debut, and I'm going in my first round ever is with Jay Harone and some serious guys like Brian Caraway, and there's some big names that I was training with, Joseph Benavidez and Dan Ige, so I really had to dig deep in my mind and say to myself, I remember saying to myself before every sparring session is, you are Iron Horse and you belong to be here with these dudes. So that was a big eye opener for me. Another eye opener that I had down there is I had to learn the hard way on this is I used to just spar and wrestle for my training. I'd lift weights here and there and stuff, but really I was training 3 times a day, sparring, beating up my body, and only getting so far doing that. When I met Coach Ryan and Coach Clay Collard, my teammate down there, when I used to train with him, they really taught me the side of things where I needed to be doing cardio and then maybe sparring twice a week, going to jujitsu 1 time a week. But we're hitting all these cardios and different fight motions in the weight room, and that definitely leveled up my game to a whole nother ball game for sure when that came into play.
How much did this specific era kind of forge you into the fighter that you are today?
So that led me to Burley, Idaho.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this story because I don't really talk about it too much. But we moved up here. Clay and I moved up here with Ryan. I moved to Jerome, Idaho on fight week before I fought Nate Owens. I literally packed bags, moved into a motel in Jerome with Ryan and Clay. We drove down. I fought, beat Nate Owens, and then I started living in Idaho at that time. Um, at the time, it didn't make sense to me why we moved or why we had to do that. There were some marital issues with our coach and stuff, and obviously it all worked out for us in the end. But looking at what I have now, being the head wrestling coach at Declo, and I have Top Dog Boxing, Coach Hector and Coach Pete and Anthony Castro and Javier Beltran as training partners. I think I belong here for sure.
Talk to me a little bit about your wrestling and all of that side of it. You obviously have a very extensive wrestling career, but also now the coaching side. We kind of spotlighted it while you were in the cage after your last win. How much does this team mean to you, and what is it about them that kind of fuels you going into these matchups?
So a big thing with the wrestling, um, obviously I'm going to talk about a little bit of coaching real quick. Um, I have a lot of athletes that have my back till the end of time, and I have their backs too. And when I decided to fight again, these young kids, they really hyped me up to get back in the cage, So having the wrestling family behind me, man, means everything for sure.
What was it that got you back in that cage?
I think that for sure. I had to step away. There was money issues, and I had to figure out my job, and I had to figure out how to make money on the side because fighting just wasn't making enough money for me at one point in time. And moving to Idaho, I had to pay rent for my wife to live in, and pay the bills, and it just all became too overwhelming for me for a minute. And at the time, I didn't understand it. Of course, that broke my heart, not being able to fight. And, getting the wrestling coaching job really just kind of fit in my groove, man. I started coaching wrestling at Declo. I have a ton of clients in personal training now, a bunch of money there coming in. And now I have enough to be able to support myself and train and pay for medical physicals and all this stuff and be able to train myself and eat right and be mentally healthy to get back in the cage. And so I think that having a good support group at Declo and at Top Dog Boxing really helped me step back into the cage for sure.
One of the things that you continue to bring up, and rightfully so, is your wife, and how strong has she been throughout this entire the moves, being away from each other for a year, moving up to Idaho, dealing with all these different things alongside you. She has been kind of your partner in crime through this roller coaster ride of your MMA career.
Yeah, man. I've definitely put her through a whole bunch for sure. Especially looking back at that first fierce fight. I remember coming out to the cage and I seen my wife. The first thing I seen when I came in the entry door was my wife and her family, and they were just bawling because they were scared I was going to get my butt kicked in the cage. And so from the very start of our relationship, I've been putting her through everything, and she's always had my back and always told me to keep pushing. So super thankful for her.
You have so many supporters around you, and I apologize if this is pushing your emotions, but I just find it incredible that you have such a strong support system. Why do you think there's so many people that believe in you, Justin?
I think a big part of it is that I show belief in other people too. So when I bring up, when I go to wrestling matches, I tell the kids to just go out and wrestle and believe in their inner strength. And when you have that side of being a coach and you see that side of what you're trying to put in your athlete and trying to get them to perform, it's a whole different ball game when all of a sudden you're the guy competing again. You teach them these mental strength things and you make them practice hard and you want them to give an hour and a half every single day in the room, and it opens your eye when you become the competitor again, for sure.
What made you want to become a coach?
I think I always wanted to be a coach. My grandfather was my coach in football, baseball, basketball growing up. He didn't know much about wrestling, but he learned when I started stepping on the mat, and he'd come and help me. And he always told me that I'd be a good coach one day. So,
Is he still with you, or has he passed on at this point?
yeah, my grandfather actually passed away, Coach Grumpy. So, sorry, this is kind of an emotional one for me, but
No, I
it's a big fight for me coming up.
it's an incredible fight, and I think everyone who is surrounding you is proud of you, and I think the fierce fans can feel that as well, and that's why we do this podcast, Justin, is to be able to see these fighters' reasons why, right? And I think for you, there's so many reasons why this means a lot to you, and I really appreciate again you sharing all this. I do want to ask you a little bit about the Iron Horse nickname. You talked about it a little bit earlier. If I may say, your email is Iron Horse, the nickname, obviously.
Yeah.
Where does that all come from? What's the backstory of Iron Horse?
So my last name's Horsley. My grandpa Ted, he was horse. My dad, he's horse. My little brother Danny, he's horse. I've been horse forever. Um, I always wanted to do like Justin Horsley, but that just didn't really have like a very good ring to it. And then I started becoming like a fitness trainer, a personal trainer, and I wanted to name my business at the time Iron Life Fitness. And I just kind of grew into, well, Iron Horse kind of sounds good, and it caught real quick. And it used to be Justin the Iron Horse Horsley, and then actually a Tough Enough commentator actually just started calling me Justin Iron Horse Horsley, and I said, you know what, that actually sounds better than Justin the Iron Horse Horsley. So that's kind of where it came from, for sure.
I would assume that was Justin Bernard, then the cage announcer over there at
I,
Tough
I
Enough.
think it was Justin Bernard. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Justin does an awesome job. He's a
He
great guy.
does. Good dude.
You have an incredible teammate, Justin, in Anthony Castro. He's another kind of top level guy who is high up on the lists of people who think can really make it in this sport. Is it exciting to be able to be competing on the same card and that your schedules kind of align right now?
Oh, we are super hyped about it for sure. Um, I think Anthony and I are going to have a huge crowd coming for us, and I think our crowds are definitely going to add in and cheer for one another. It's going to be one big top dog crowd out there for sure. I just want to clarify on one thing. Top Dog Boxing has always been here. That's Coach Hector Castro's gym. I think yeah, I'm the only person that came from Extreme Couture to this gym.
I see. Okay.
So I moved up here and kind of parted ways with Clay and Ryan at the time. And I really didn't have anyone to train with, honestly, at the time, anyways. And then I actually met Pete Nunez through coaching wrestling. He was coaching at Minico High School, and I was coaching at Declo. And he kind of figured out who I was and said, "Hey, you should come in and train and come do some fighting with us, you know." And so that's how I ended up at Top Dog, coming in with those guys. Um, Seriously though, meeting Anthony, I think it's a big law of attraction. I kind of brought this up earlier. I said I feel like I belong here. Um, I think that me and Anthony are on the same wavelengths of what we want to do in the sport, and we both believe in ourselves the same way. And honestly, I think that God put us both here in Burley, Idaho, together to train for these upcoming fights we got coming up.
Typically, I start off with this, but we've been having such a good conversation. I wanted to talk to you about that sensational Mark Coates KO back in November. Is that one of the highlights of your career? I mean, it was an unbelievable finish. Is how I guess I'll coin this.
I think that that was just the opening of the new Iron Horse that is back now. My coaches tell me, and I feel this the same way too. I'm more mature, I'm more dangerous, and I work harder than ever. And I think that that knockout was just a testament to that. That I've changed and I'm a whole different fighter this time around.
I wanted to ask you, Justin, about David Kim and the connection that you two have. Being able to call that with him was great because it was so eye opening to get to know you a little bit more because you two have a little bit of a history as well back in high school.
Yeah, I think that was perfect timing to have David Kim commentating the fight with you, especially with my walkout song with Taylor
Mm-hmm.
Tovey and David being our old wrestling partner back in high school. So I think that couldn't have been better timing at all for sure. Yeah, David and I, we wrestled each other in high school on the same teams. He wrestled for Viewmont, I wrestled for Bountiful, and then we wrestled at the same wrestling club together. We just kind of developed a friendship. I remember going to the state tournament my senior year, and a lot of my teammates were eliminated because it was the second day of the state tournament, and I didn't really have anyone to warm up with. Well, I did have someone to warm up with. There was David Kim and the Viewmont guys, and they're on a different team, but we were all friends, and that's kind of the thing with wrestling is it's lifelong friends. You can not see each other for 10 years, and all of a sudden you're best buddies again when you're in the same room. So, you know, that's awesome.
Have you guys been able to talk a lot since? How consistent were the conversations prior to your fight and now, a few months following it?
We kind of touch base every now and then.
Yeah.
Like when he had his fight coming up this last little bit ago, I just sent him a quick message on Instagram and said, "Hey, good luck, dude. Cheering for you. Always sending the good vibes towards the people that I've grinded with on the mat." And I think that's it right there. I mean, when you go into a wrestling room and you wrestle with people for endless hours and you sweat and you bleed and you get frustrated together, you really figure out who each other are. You
Yeah.
figure out one another and you bond in a whole different way than just meeting somebody and going out to dinner or hanging out at an amusement park or whatever. You really bond a whole different way when it's in the wrestling room for sure.
How much is that wrestling base still fresh on your mind when you have kind of added all these new striking attributes over the past few years?
I wrestle all the time in practice
Yeah.
for sure. When we're doing full MMA rounds, I'm shooting double legs on guys. I'm picking them up. I'm putting them up against the wall. Anthony's always shooting on me, and he's bigger than me too. So I always got to wrestle him, of course. And that's another thing too is Anthony Castro was a super good wrestler too,
Right. Right.
and Division two NCAA, and so I think our gym says boxing and full force MMA, but we're both high level wrestlers. I was an NCAA ninth place finisher in nationals when I was 18. I wrestled for Dixie State in college,
Mhm.
and So I think wrestling's always there. Obviously, I coach a ton of wrestling too. So I'm always wrestling state champs in the room. I'm wrestling kids all the time, you know. So I've brought in Wallace Durfee into this fight camp with me. He is a three-time state champion under me at Declo. He just graduated. He's going to be wrestling at Northern Idaho College, and his goal is to be a national champ one day. And so I brought him along this fight camp with me. He's been coming to jiu-jitsu. He's been coming to do boxing. So I've always got wrestlers surrounded around me for sure.
You kind of forecasted it as well, but there's going to be a lot of Justin Horsley fans at the Maverik Center in a
Oh yeah.
couple of weeks. How important is it for you to be able to hear them, to have them support you, to make that 2.5 hour drive down just for Justin Horsley to make that walk in the main event?
Super excited. It means a ton to me. The fans and friends that I've met up here in Idaho, they're obviously traveling great for me, coming down 2 hours down there. Of course, Idaho Falls was about 2 hour drive for them too to come support me. So
Right.
it's about the same amount of distance. Um, the difference with this fight camp is, or this fight is, I am actually from Bountiful, Utah. So not only is my Declo family coming, but the Horsley family's coming, and so it's mixing two crowds together, and I think it's going to be a whole another wild fans for Iron Horse for sure.
What do you make of Joel Haro? We talked about it a little bit before we turned on the cameras. Seems as though you two have kind of been on a beeline for each other for years at this point. Now that you're more active once again, seems like a match made in heaven.
Yeah, I think it's a great matchup. Um, Joel's obviously a great fighter for sure. Um, I like what he brings to the table. Honestly, I've liked watching his fights. You know, I've been studying a lot of his fights. Very entertaining fighter. I think it's a perfect matchup, perfect opponent for me to come in and fight for sure. The one thing that I do see about Joel is his two losses. They were to boxers and wrestlers, and now we got a third boxer and wrestler in the cage with him. So that's kind of what I think.
Number one thing you're looking forward to on August 16th at the Maverik Center as you are one of the final two to make the walk?
You know, when you get in the cage, it's kind of a surreal moment. It's almost like a dream. It doesn't feel real in there, especially when you're fighting and you got somebody standing in front of you. I thrive for that moment. I thrive for that moment when Joel and I lock in and we're looking at each other in jab range and we're ready to throw some hands. And the crowd kind of goes quiet in our ears because we're locked in on the fight. You know, that's what I'm looking forward to.
It was a podcast full of goosebumps, Justin. You are incredible. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to chat. Looking forward to it. Tickets on sale now at fiercefightingchampionship.com. Justin Horsley, Joel Haro, top the card. Going to be good. Justin, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.